Assalamu Alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulihil Ameen wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. How's everyone doing? Good? Everyone excited? Yeah? That's good. Okay. Basically, like I told you yesterday, today we want to look at ways of convincing, ways of explaining concepts. So, I want to tell you exactly what we want to do. A lot of times, people like da'wah workshops to be where you give them a lot of information on how to, on what to say. Okay. Mostly, I don't like to teach like that. I don't like to teach you what to say in every scenario. I like to give you the tools with which you can formulate your own refutation in any scenario. Because I can't tell you of every single scenario you'll encounter for the rest of your life. But what I can do is give you the tools by which you can fix and formulate your own responses to different scenarios, to new belief systems that you've heard, that you encounter. Another idea. So, like, I don't know if I said this story yesterday, but there was a guy who went with me one time, to a nearby state, and we did the da'wah, just a regular 10-minute Shahada workshop, and in the end he was kind of objecting to it, but in a polite way. He was telling me, I once went to a da'wah workshop by Dr. so-and-so and so, and he gave us a booklet that was this thick, and it had every way to argue against this and that, and to refute Trinity, and it had this verses in this chapter and that chapter. Well, let me show you something. This is from, I want to show you this page. It's from, actually I think it's probably the same page that's coming up there. This is my da'wah course, and this is the page on Trinity. That's how long it is. And in the beginning of the course, I tell people to turn to that page and I explain to them why it's that short. Because people would like to get lots of information in this verse and that verse. And if they say this verse, refute it with that verse. And if they try to refute you here, say this and say that. And the thing is that, I tell the students is that if I do that, if I just go online and copy and paste all the known arguments against Trinity, and then paste it into the notes and give it to you, and you pay money to take this course, and then I'm really ripping you off. Right? So when we're going to discuss ways of refuting arguments, ways, of rebuttal, so on and so forth, and then you can apply them in different situations, or you can refute one argument through various different ways. Like, and we're going to go through at least 8, 9, 10 different ways. So you can take any argument and I can refute it from using this system, or using that system, or using this style, or using that style. So many different ways to do it. And then I might ask you some questions towards the end of the day of scenarios that you've never heard of. But you will be, InshaAllah, ready and able to answer a refute. Why? Because now you have the tools and you can put together your own argument. Most people would like that to be given everything. This is how you answer this, that's how you answer that. Okay. And a lot of times you'll discover that the short way, to answer the question without referring to scripture, this and that, you'll see that inshallah as we go. So, let's see. Everyone understand yesterday's? Did everyone understand yesterday's exercise? The last one we did, yeah, about the Prophet ﷺ. Because I saw a few people kept worrying that how do I prove to them? Well, they don't believe in these sources, hadith, Quran. So how do you prove that to them? How can you convince them? Tell me. What would their argument be? Essentially, the argument would be that, well, over the years, Muslims have been fixing and taking out everything that would make it clear that he was an imposter, maybe. Is that an argument? No? Why would a non-Muslim not accept your sources? And we say, look, we're going to analyze the teachings of Muhammad ﷺ and his actions. Here we have the teachings, the Quran. If obviously under the premise that he wrote it, so those are his teachings, right? Or either it's from Allah. And then the other thing, we're going to analyze how he lived, his lifestyle and everything from the hadith. So why would the kafir object to that? Saying, well, these are your sources. Yes, sir?
Because it focuses on one perspective.
Okay, but give me more detail. Why would he object to it?
He's never heard of it before.
No?
He's never heard of it before, probably.
Okay.
And he just assumed.
Yes, but if I'm sitting with a non-Muslim who tells me, well, I've never heard of these sources before, I'm saying, oh, and you have to have heard of everything in the world. What's the argument? What is there? Yes?
If Muhammad was illiterate and couldn't read, then he didn't write it himself, and so he didn't know what was written.
You're right, but would that be their argument?
Yeah, I've heard that argument.
Oh, you have, huh? That he didn't write it himself, so he wouldn't know what was written?
And if you couldn't read, then you couldn't check it.
Oh, I can check it, I see. Okay. But, I mean, okay, when you argue, right? But it's ridiculous, right? Because I can be totally illiterate, and it could just be me and Ziyad in the room. I say, Ziyad, please write down what I said. And I dictate half a page, Ziyad writes it, right? Then 3 days later, I call Hamza and say, Hamza, please read this back to me. And then he reads it, there you go, I checked it, and I'm illiterate. Come on. It's just weird, these people. So, okay, but why would they say, look, these are your sources? Because they're saying you could have manipulated them, right? You could have taken out all the parts that prove he wasn't a genuine prophet of Allah. True? So how do you argue that then? How do you argue that point?
There's only one from the Quran.
Good. There's only one Quran. We all know that, right? Now, tell me, and there's more than one argument here, tell me how you can prove that to a kafir. There's only one Quran. How do you prove that to them? Yes, sir.
I was praying yesterday in congregation, and the leader of the prayer was reciting the Quran, and he made a mistake, and he was corrected by someone else in the prayer.
Excellent. So you're saying that, first of all, you know how many people have memorized the Quran worldwide, the estimate? No? Anyone? No? Yeah, they say about 10, they say about 11 million people are false worldwide. That is amazing, actually. 11 million people totally memorize the book from beginning to end. So you can explain to the non-Muslim in so many ways that this book, it's just one book. I mean, first of all, it's not anything that's like a miracle. If it were more than one copy, we would know. Okay? So it's only one. Well, how do you know it's one? Because we don't know if a second or a third. It's just one copy of the Quran. So if there were 3 types of Qurans or versions, you think I wouldn't know it? I mean, you know this and I don't know this piece of information? So it's not a disputed fact that there's one Quran. Okay? I know someone might put their hand up and say, well, this extreme group of the Shia that live in this part of this country have another version. Well, I mean, anyway, we don't even consider them to be part of the, right? I mean, I'm saying any group that has a different, we don't consider them to be part of Islam anyway. But, so, we know that it's one book, alright, it hasn't been changed. We know it's been memorized by people. We know that if you change one letter, and you have all experienced this in Taraweeh, the Imam, when he makes a mistake, how is he corrected? Then he's still waiting for just one person, please, one person speak. And they all say it again together. Everyone is so in a hurry to correct the Imam. It's so detectable if one word moves out of place, 11 million people will catch it. And even people who are not Haffaz will catch it. So there's so many ways you can prove to them the Quran has not changed. One of the ways when people used to come to my house, I'd get all kinds of masahif, from with that same print, and then open the big one, small one printed this year, one printed 10 years ago, and then I say, okay, I know you can't read Arabic, but we're gonna do this until you say enough. We're gonna open the same page, and you can't read the Arabic numerals, but it looks like a 24. There it is. This is the same page. Yes. Okay. Pick any little dot or scratch on this page. They pick this one. Okay, let's find it in every single one of those. Okay, next page. We'll open the page, just a random page, all the way to that same page. You can pick any dot. And of course, the minute you do 2, it's like, okay, I'm with you. So it hasn't changed, not one dot has changed. And there are other ways we will discuss how if just one of the dots moves out of place or one of the markers, it throws off the entire sentence. It changes the meaning of the word. Just like, for example, sometimes I would write the word jamal, on a piece of paper twice, right? That's okay, look at that word. Is it the same word? I know you can't read Arabic. Yeah, it's the same word. Then I put a shadda on the meme. It becomes what? Jamal, which means? Yeah, like he has beautified, he has adorned something. So now from camel, we have a pronoun added, we have a verb that is in the past tense, all of that from this little marker here. So if I'm reading a sentence and instead of getting on the camel, he get on that he has beautified, am I going to catch that or what? For sure I'm going to catch it. So the language won't allow changes and so on and so forth. So these are the teachings of Muhammad ﷺ. And if the book had changed in any way and people were allowed throughout history to change it and alter and so on and so forth, then it would be so easy, then it would be clear, because now we'll see, you will see the different political trends, how every time it will change during this century, during this era, it will change, during this dynasty it will change. And we'll have probably more than one copy because, the Fatimiyin would have their copy, the Abbasids would have their copy, and the Umayyads would have their copy. And it would be just like with the Bible now. I mean, they actually have a chart that traces how the Bible came to be. And you would just see this copy, this branch, that branch. So how come you can trace your alterations of your book and we're totally oblivious to the fact that there was more than one? Anyways, yes, sister?
How come people can argue about translations? Because not everybody knows them can read Arabic and understand them. So then there's very different translations sometimes of different verses.
Okay. So, what if someone argues that there are different translations of the same verses? Of course, these are translations of the meanings, right? And the meanings can vary a little bit here and there. And that's not really a problem. Because, when it comes to the basic beliefs, you don't find the things that are clear in the Quran, you don't find some scholars saying this, others saying that about some of the very clear things in the Quran. But there might be a little bit of a difference of what they thought this story happened in this story, or what was the incident related to this story. That really doesn't affect the Quran being a book that's not changed. It's still a book it's one book. It hasn't been altered, it hasn't been changed or anything. Anyway, so that's how you show them. This is your the source. These are the sources that we're going to use. What about hadith? They tell you, well, what if people changed the hadith over the years and said, well, they moved away the part that he slept all night and said he prayed all night till his feet became swollen. How about that? I mean, basically, primarily it's the same argument, And you can give them a quick rundown of how hadith was collected, and that there wasn't some joke. Some Muslims think that hadith just whoever said something, they wrote it down and it became the hadith. So you tell them how intricate and detailed the system was. And so these are the sources that we're going to use. The argument that, well, you're using your sources, it's not a valid argument whatsoever. And anyone says that to you, just tell them, come on, let's get real here. That's not how we do things anywhere in the world. One time, some non-Muslim tried to argue with me. It was a ridiculous argument. He said, well, these things are not in Western books, so therefore, I don't believe them. What kind of an argument is it? I spoke to my history professor about that. And he was saying to me, what kind of an argument is that? He said, for example, a lot of things that happened in Chinese history, they're in the Chinese history books. England had no clue what was going on in China. So why would you expect them to be in English history books? Same thing, the history of Africa. I remember I was telling one guy about how during the reign of Umar bin Abdul Aziz, that they couldn't find a single poor person to give the zakah money to in all of Africa, or in all of Africa that was under their control. So then they used the zakah money to buy the slaves and set them free. So non-Muslim said, I don't believe that. Because it's too much for him. Because here we are talking about global village and democracy and technology and freedom, all these things. Look at Africa today. You mean look at wealth in one part of the world and look at Africa today. So, and they think that they run the world and everything, and they can't take care of Africa until now. And then the Muslims in our history, we took care of Africa.